ज्योति स्टेनो टाइपिंग कॉलेज में आप सभी का स्वागत है बच्चों। ये इंग्लिश 80 WPM प्रैक्टिस क्लास है, यानी कि इसको एज ए प्रैक्टिस करना है और जो लिख लेते हो तो फिर इसको टाइप अगर आप करते हो और सॉफ्टवेयर पर अगर आपकी एक्यूरेसी 80% आती है या उससे ऊपर आती है तो आप किसी भी डिपार्टमेंट में ये मान सकते हो कि आपका सिलेक्शन हो सकता है। डिक्टेशन स्टार्ट आफ्टर 5 सेकेंड। The President's address is an occasion to take an overall view of our contributions on different fronts of national and international activities. It is also an opportunity for the government to indicate the direction in which we are going to move. It is difficult to react to almost every aspect of the issues mentioned. Precisely for that reason, I would like to highlight some limited areas. First of all, India, in its efforts of the last 60 years has tried to develop a vibrant democratic polity. Now the process of creating a democratic system is unending, and at the national level we have a superstructure of democratic framework. So is the situation with regard to the state level, but at the third level, at the district level, it needed considerable re-strengthening. Now, having regard to the need for democratic decentralization in decision making, in the devolution of resources at lower levels, and for strengthening of the infrastructure and functioning of the local level democracy, the government has taken a refreshing initiative. In this context, the initiative of the government to introduce and strengthen the Panchayati Raj system is a major step forward. India has known the Panchayat system right from the beginning, from the pre-independence period as well. In the post-independence period, several efforts have been made to strengthen this institution, but for one reason or the other, it has not been able to get a sound footing and acquire the vibrance that is required in the working at that level. On some pretext or the other, in different parts of the country, elections have been postponed or local bodies have been disbanded and administrative control from the executive side has been strengthened. This has led to a situation where the distance between the common man and the government has widened. This has further led to a process where there has been an alienation at the grassroots so far as beneficiaries of one or the other of government programs are concerned. When we are trying to give the country a trial in the development process, the success depends on what opportunities we provide for the people to influence the decision making, what are the points for democratic contribution with regard to the things which are uppermost in their thinking. Now you have the electoral process, whether it is the parliament or it is the state assembly. In every sphere of national issues, the constituencies at the village level get lost. The same is the story with regard to MLAs and members of parliament. They make laudable contribution in the national life, but the overwhelming character of the spheres or areas in which they operate does not allow sufficient justice to the local system, and the electoral process does not do full justice through the central and state level processes to the local level problems. To that extent, the opening and strengthening of a third tier at the local level, the district level is the only and inevitable solution to the problem of strengthening the grassroots of the democratic process. But the democratic process will not work through the political process only. It requires a solid economic component, and the very fact that we are now emphasizing the district level planning is a step forward in the right direction, which have seen 10 plan periods of development since 1951. We are at the end of the 10th plan, and the 11th 5-year plan is beginning to take shape. But in that process, what has been the contribution of people through their views and resources for development in the plan programs, or of those who are at the receiving end of whatever plan programs have been launched, has been an open question. It is not surprising that the delivery cost of development programs has been getting out of hand. Almost 80% of the project cost is delivery cost only, and just 15 to 20% gets left for the benefit of the receiving end. Also, the priorities when we look from the national or state level tend to differ radically from the perceptions of the people at the district level. They do not involve the problems which concern the district level and the village level. The district level and the village level problems do not involve substantial resources, but from the point of view of those local people, they are the lifeblood for survival, whether it is the location of a small school building or the construction of a canal or the public distribution system network location. They are all local development concerns. In the district level planning, we have talked about decentralized planning, but this time the district level planning program is a decisive and courageous program to carry the whole process of economic planning to the local level, so that the people there who are likely to be knowing more so far as their own interests are concerned are involved directly in the process of planning. Sir, I fully agree with the Honorable Deputy Minister when he says that it should be our endeavor to see that there is much progress in the matter of electricity, and that consumers get electricity at a cheaper rate. Sir, in our country, with the question of national reconstruction before us and considering the position of our coal reserves, it is very necessary to develop the other sources of power. I remember, sir, that in our student days we used to read about white coal, namely power generated from electricity. In India, there is an abundant scope for developing that white coal, and if that is developed, it can bring about a very extensive transformation in the whole structure of the industry, because if there is supply of cheap electricity, then cottage industries and a number of other industries can easily be developed, and the places which are still undeveloped industrially or where there are large potentialities of industrial development, but there are certain other difficulties due to lack of coal, etc., can easily be developed. So, sir, from the industrial development point of view and from the point of view of developing cottage and other industries, as also from the point of view of the employment potential which is connected with these industries, it is very necessary that progress should be made in the development of electricity. This will help the consumers also, because electricity is now being used for more and more purposes, including the domestic purposes, and with electricity we are able to reduce the drudgery of our day-to-day life. But sir, there are certain other factors which should also be taken into consideration when we are considering the question of developing these things. Sir, the Honorable Minister has referred to the 2 minutes of dissent submitted to the report of the Select Committee, and he has rightly said that the minutes of dissent represent two extremes, but in order to avoid these extremes and in an effort to adopt a middle course, actually what has happened is that middle course middle course goes round the other extreme, that is to say it goes to help the vested interests, and thereby it comes in the way of development of electricity departments. Sir, take for instance the question of electricity development when the different stations under the DVC scheme were all intended to produce electricity. I have heard that the rate of electricity supplied is very high. The cost of production is much less, but the rate charged from the consumer is very high. And what are the reasons behind all that? One of the reasons, I think, is that in that locality, many of the industries are owned by the Anglo-Indian companies, and they have their own resources for generating electricity. So, in that whole industrial area, there is no scope for utilizing electricity from that station. Therefore, other outlets for the utilization of power generated from the DVC stations are to be sought. It is no doubt good that there is a proposal to run electric trains over the suburban line to Kolkata. That is not doubt quite good, but the question is that these private interests who have got a monopoly, they are also coming in the way of development of the electricity departments. I might submit, sir, that the development of these stations, particularly the electric power generating stations, was undertaken without a proper assessment of the possibilities there. Secondly, sir, he has said that it should be our intention to see that the consumer gets electricity at a lower rate, but the industrialists do not feel shy to invest their capital and their resources because they feel that their investments are secure. They think that their profits are reasonable. Now, sir, we know that reasonableness or otherwise of the amount of profit is looked at by the industrialist from a different angle. We have to see what is reasonable from the point of view of the nation or from the point of view of the consumers, and what is reasonable from the point of view of the nation may not be reasonable from the point of view of the industrialist. So, in a concern like this, in an undertaking like this, which is a public undertaking, the consideration of what is reasonable from the point of view of industrialists should not be the prime consideration. The prime consideration should be the development of electricity undertakings and making electricity available to the consumers at a cheaper rate. In the Calcutta area, sir, the supply of electricity is in the hands of the General Electric Company. Its period of license has been extended further, and the government proposes to supply electricity from DVC to Calcutta and the other area through that company. I do not understand this procedure itself. I feel that in the case of this vital sector, any control by such companies like the General Electric Company is detrimental to the further development of this process. वर्ड बता देता हूँ मैं, टोटल कितने हैं? 1673 ये वर्ड है। 1673 डिवाइड बाई 17, 98 की स्पीड से बोली गई है और वेबसाइट पे इसको लगा दिया गया। 70 मिनट आप लोगों को टाइप के लिए दिए गए। इस क्लास के अंदर नमस्कार।